promise you that shit.
Listen to the words. Garbage, a joke, clown acts, pisses me off. No, come find me. No, come find me. Listen to the words. Come find me. Garbage, a joke, clown acts, pisses me off.
I ain't a hard guy to find. I promise you that shit.
Listen to the words. Garbage, a joke, clown acts, pisses me off. What's up, ladies and gentlemen? Hey, you know they call me T.I., but you don't know me. You be hating and I see why. Because you don't know me. See, you understand something. What my man from Atlanta, Clifford Harris Jr., a.k.a. T.I., understood was people be out here talking. They out here talking and they don't know you. They don't know who you are or what you are. They don't know you, man. They don't know you. And I'll be honest with you. I went to a NASCAR race yesterday, and from now on, I have a new rule. Never say something unless you've seen something. Okay, I've been, to a NASCAR race that was like rained out 20 laps in, and it wasn't full capacity because it was mid-COVID, and I had all kinds of thoughts and opinions about NASCAR racing. And this ain't a NASCAR channel, but this is my channel, and we like to talk about my life every once in a while. And I learned a lot about life yesterday. And again, I have a new rule. Never say something unless you've seen something. If you ain't seen it, don't say nothing about it. And I feel exactly that way about NASCAR. NASCAR is a sporting event, and there's just something about these types of sporting events that you can't take your eye off of it. If you take your eye off the action for 1 second, you might miss the most action-packed, coolest shit you've ever seen in your life moment that might happen tonight. There might only be one of those moments. And if your eyes aren't locked on what they're supposed to be locked on, because you just, got bored for a second and took your eye off of it or just lost concentration, then boom, you might miss it. You might miss the thing to see that night. And sports like this, like boxing's like this, right? A guy could get knocked out any moment, and you're just like holding on to every last breath and every last punch and every last turn in a NASCAR race because that thing might happen that moment. It's an absolute thrill ride, man. It's no longer for me about guys just going in circles for 3 hours. That's what it was. If I want to see somebody turn left, I'll just go outside. I used to make fun of it. It's just guys going in circles for 3 hours. If I wanted to watch that, I'll come back and watch it. You know what I mean? They'll still be going in circles, that kind of deal. And yeah, they are going in circles for 3 hours, but damn if they ain't driving. They are doing some driving. You know what I mean? Like they moving up and down that track while going in circles. It's no longer one of those jabs that I'm going to take. And that's not what we're talking about tonight. We are talking about NASCAR in a sense, but it's a vehicle for us, no pun intended. Most importantly, man, I love going and seeing my friends in their element. Okay, my friends get to see me do what I love quite often. Most of them watch the program. They get to see me in my element. This is my element. But I got a buddy of mine. We call him Chef on the account of the fact that he is a chef. I think his legal name's like Jacob or something. I don't really know. It's not the point of the discussion. The point of the discussion was yesterday to be baptized in NASCAR. And if I wasn't dunked in the Jordan River yesterday when it comes to NASCAR, I don't know how it is. Let me tell you a little something about a man named Brad Keselowski. I didn't know a lot about Brad Keselowski yesterday before the race, but I'm going to tell you what. After standing by my friend Chef for 3 hours, the better part of 3 hours, I knew everything there was to know about Brad Keselowski thanks to this lunatic. Okay, you see, my boy Chef's grandfather loved Brad Keselowski, and like many family habits that are often passed down through our lineage, Brad is Chef's guy because Brad was Pops's guy. You see, Grandpa passed away a little while back, and Keselowski ain't won a damn race in God knows how long. He ain't won a race since 2020. So yesterday, when we are at my first true NASCAR race ever, something that I had doubted forever and kind of hated on forever, and I'll be damned if Big Bad Brad wasn't about to win the damn race and was just driving his damn car like he stole it, okay? And here I am next to a friend of mine who is just losing his ever-loving mind. I mean, absolutely having an out-of-body experience, damn near causing a scene. And in that moment, as the poor 7-year-old Joey Logano fan right in front of us got berated with the 900th, "Let's go, Brad!" After about the 900th time, in that very moment where most people would probably be a tad bit embarrassed, You know what I couldn't help but think? I just want something to be fanatical about. I want something to be so ridiculously impassioned about that I just don't make no damn sense, that I lose my ever-loving mind every once in a while. So tonight's intro is nothing about Georgia football. In fact, it has nothing to do with Georgia football. The only relation is the fact that you have this same kind of fanatical, irrational thought process about your Georgia Bulldogs. But I'll tell you something about this channel right here and about me. I have a new life goal after yesterday. My new life goal is to find something that I love the way Sheffrey loves Brad Keselowski. To find something that ain't my wife and my children or my career that I love blindly. I mean, I love so damn much that I am goofy, that I'm a lunatic, that I make a scene. I want that. I want what you have. I want irrational pain. I want irrational suffering. I want irrational joy. When my boy Brad has led his first laps for the first time in however many months or however many years, whatever it is, I want to love something the way that my boy Chef loves Brad Keselowski. It's not just going to be NASCAR tonight. We do have a bunch of football for you tonight on tonight's show. In fact, it's probably one of the more loaded shows we've had on this network in quite a bit of time. So be sure to hit that thumbs up button, hit that subscribe button, do all that good stuff. We got a loaded one coming for you. We got buy, sell, and hold, as you can see based off the thumbnail and the title of tonight's show. We got SEC preseason buy, sell, and hold, SEC Coach Edition. All right. There are 12 SEC football teams. We will be separating these into 3 editions of buy, sell, and hold. So today, tomorrow, Thursday, we're going to be buy, selling, and holding some college football coaches in this fine conference. We will also talk about Georgia's biggest potential upset on the schedule this year. Not a gruesome schedule, not a real grinder, but something we should talk about anyways tonight based off the reactions we got from Twitter today. Believe it or not, Paul Finebaum took a shot, or gave rather, his thoughts on journalism that's been posed from the Atlanta Journal-Constitution as of late. And I'm going to tell you tonight how Carson Beck just doesn't care about all that other stuff, or at least at Georgia, he's not allowed to care about it. Great show for you guys tonight. Make sure you are definitely hitting that thumbs up button, hitting that subscribe, all that good stuff. Hey, it's been a great week, a great couple of weeks here on this channel. I think we've really paid our dues. I told you back in February, I wanted to challenge myself with being here Monday, Tuesday, and Thursday, 9 o'clock, no matter what, rain, snow, shine, whatever. If I'm going on, during April or during May, we saw 37 schools in 17 days. I brought you shows every single time I was supposed to bring you shows during those things, and paying those dues, right? Showing up every single day and doing stuff that we don't want to do sometimes. It paid dividends. I think it paid dividends last week. I think we've slowly been paying that meter down, right? And you guys have slowly been coming in and showing up and staying in and plugging in with us here on the network. But I think our fruit really came to bear last week when we had 2, Georgia football commits commit on the channel, and they won't be the last. All right. And we also announced that we'll be doing Mondays with Aaron Murray here on the channel starting August 7th. And we will also be doing Tuesdays with Terrence. So we have the SEC's all-time passing leader on this channel every single Monday. He's going to be coming to studio every single Monday. Okay. And we have Georgia's all-time leading receiver coming, or not to studio, but will be on the show every single Tuesday on this channel. So if you like Georgia football, if you like college football, and you're not subscribed to the channel already, you need to be doing so, because it's a great time to be here. We will also be in Nashville next week. And if you haven't been here long enough, you may not know that remote shows for us are different, right? Shouts out Josh Pate, friend of the program. Josh Pate gets to bring everybody with him. They got a whole damn team. They bring the studio. They got set times. They got, somebody planning all the events for them. They got set, studio spaces and all good stuff. Everybody looking out for them. Everybody handling business for them. For your boy's just going to have to figure out how we're going to do it, but I can promise you we're going to do it. We're going to have shows while we're up there, so keep the channel on alerts and you won't miss them, right? There's a little ding, a little bell down there, bottom right-hand corner of your screen. Make sure you're hitting it right there, because we will be in Nashville, and you will want to hear all the great content that we have coming there. Also, some commitments coming down the pipe on the channel. That's not a one-time fluke deal. Here, we're going to be getting some big names on this program to be popping off and making their college commitments. And no, they won't all be Georgia Bulldog commitments. So don't be hedging bets just because they come onto this channel. This channel will continue to kind of venture off while maintaining the base, right? The base is going to be the base. We're going to be talking them dogs, but there's going to be some other things going around the channel as well. Glad you guys could be here tonight. Super excited for you. Hey, Kirby Smart allows one narrative and one narrative alone around his football program, or at least he tries. What is that narrative, you might be asking? It's his narrative. No different than any other CEO or owner or VP of any business. If you own something, if something is a direct representation of you, all right, then it is a direct representation of you. You will run it how you want to run it. The narrative coming out of that organization better be a little tied to you, right? It better be a little spun towards your direction if you're a good CEO, if you're a good business owner, if you're a good operator of any type of public relation department, right? You better have some type of control, okay? So when you're Kirby Smart and the narrative that you want to continue to drive home this offseason and into this fall camp is that you don't have a starting quarterback and that you have a quarterback competition, right? That's very clearly the narrative he wants. Not named a starter. No, probably won't. You won't hear it. Why? He don't want that narrative. He wants the narrative. There is a quarterback competition. So if that's what you want, what do you do? Well, despite giving the overwhelming majority of reps to Carson Beck during the spring game, and despite Carson Beck taking those reps and very clearly playing like the best quarterback available that day on national television, by the way, and despite the fact that Carson Beck dominated, and despite the fact that everyone kind of knows that, without some type of drastic event or some type of major change to occur, that Carson Beck is the starting quarterback at the University of Georgia. We all, if you have a semblance of knowledge into that building, right, that is the vibe coming out of that building. So despite all of that, there will be no Carson Beck at SEC Media Days next week. He won't be. He will not be there. In fact, Kirby Smart, it was announced today, will be taking Cedric Van Pran-Granger, Brock Bowers, and Kamari Lassiter to Nashville with him this year for the SEC Media Days. All three warranted, all three definitely deserving, all three not a quarterback. All three not the supposed face of your offensive organization, okay? And I will be honest, because that's all I ever do on this channel, for most quarterbacks that have done what Carson Beck has done, I don't know, guys. I don't know how I would sit if I were 22, 21 years old with the things that are going on. I mean, I wouldn't be upset, but I'm just telling you, most kids would be, okay? Most kids would be at this point. Listen to this, man. Carson Beck, sometimes people, I feel like some people forget. This is an individual who is now presumed your starting quarterback that has been sitting behind not one, but two transfer quarterbacks at the position. The moment you get him on campus, right? JT Daniels and Jamie Newman are enrolled, okay? Transferred in immediately. Then not only that, once those two guys depart from the program, he sits behind the next 2 seasons a guy that he beat out on multiple camps and multiple occasions. I think it's so often easy to forget that Carson Beck won the job and was the backup quarterback at the University of Georgia, leaving the spring in 2021 and leaving fall camp in the fall of 2021, entering the Clemson game. Carson Beck won the backup job twice and then sat behind the guy that he beat for 2 more years. Think about that, guys. Did you know right now, today, that Carson Beck is the only quarterback from the 2020 signing class that has not either started a game at the school that he signed at or have entered the transfer portal? He is literally one of one. This is a football player who has done everything right. He is not only not transferred, he's yet to be named the starter by his coach. His coach won't even bring him to SEC Media Days because he wants to avoid the headline. And I'll give Kirby Smart some credit, and you should too, as a fan or anyone watching tonight. Kirby Smart don't want to do it. You know why? Because as soon as he takes Carson Beck to SEC Media Days, you know what articles are going to be written by everyone in the beat, probably Dogs Daily included. Quote, I can see the headlines right now. Carson Beck going to SEC Media Days. Quote, what does this mean for Brock Vandagriff? They would already incite the idea that he would be entering the transfer portal. So, to avoid all of that, just don't take him. Just don't take him to SEC Media Days. But I will be honest with you. How many football players at the quarterback position in today's day and age of college football, after all I just read to you, been sitting for 3 years, set behind. They brought 2 guys in via the transfer portal at his position, okay? Won a job twice, only to get surpassed by the upperclassman, former walk-on, sit 2 more years. I give you all of those things. Only guy in the 2020 class to not have transferred or started a football game, to tell you how one of one that dude is, okay? It is very, very important when we talk about all these guys, okay? It's very, very important when we talk about all these guys that we talk through the story arc of these athletes in an accurate light, right? We have to, before they get on, like try to at least, before they get onto the field, before the national media climbs onto some narrative, we have to lay the groundwork for what actually has happened. And this dude's been sitting through it for 3 years. Okay, so when he goes out and he has 4,000 yards and he throws for 35 touchdowns, okay, and the national media is talking about where did this guy come from? Please remember what he did to get here. Don't just talk about what he's about to do once he got here. You understand? I mean, Carson Beck has been so out of the media. Did you know Carson Beck got invited to the Manning Passing Academy this year? He didn't go. You know why? He went down to Jacksonville, went and worked out with Denny Thompson, the same quarterback trainer he's been working with since he was 14 years old. He just don't care. This stuff that is, I'm not going to say has happened to Carson, but the plight, the path that Carson Beck has been on, that is very much so a him path. That I don't know of any other athletes that would be doing what he's done. I don't know how many other athletes at this point in his career where it is very clearly I am the guy wouldn't walk into his coach's office and say, Coach, my agent wants to know, why aren't you marketing me? I'm clearly the starter here. Why am I not going to SEC media days? Every single quarterback that we talk about on this platform, 90% of them have to deal with that kind of chirping from their camp. I don't hear nothing like that coming out of Carson Beck's camp. In fact, all I've ever heard out of Carson Beck's camp is, I want to go get my ring and I want to be a first-round draft pick. That's it. That's all he cares about. That's all he's hyper-focused on. And the rest of the stuff, even the SEC Media Day stuff, does not matter. He clearly does not care. Got some interesting quotes I want to show you from our guy, Paul Finebaum. But before we do that, make sure you're hitting that like, subscribe button and understand something about Carson Beck, man. Hey, not normal. Not normal for individuals to sit around like that nowadays and not necessarily happily do so, because obviously you're not happy sitting the bench, but patiently do so. I mean, if there's anything about him, you can't say he's not patient. I have to find this Finebaum skip for you guys right quick. I love doing this on live air. Here it is right here. This is back to that discussion of your boy not really having a producer yet. Shouts out. I want to say this is Paul Finebaum talking about the AJC's article. He was on a podcast, YouTube show. ESPN is very clearly getting into the YouTube space, so much so that Matthew Berry and Paul Finebaum did a 30-minute YouTube hangout. They were just talking. They were just talking football, in which Paul Finebaum was asked about the media coverage with which has been going on in the Georgia space as of late. For those of you who don't know, you're about to get a history lesson on Paul Finebaum. He has a little something we call bona fides when it comes to investigative journalism. This is a dude who got his career start as an investigative journalist out of the Birmingham area. So this is a well-versed, obviously, as you know, this is a legend in the media space. This is by definition an old head. This is an OG. This is a dude that 9 times out of 10 kind of capes for traditional media as you would expect him to do so. So when you're listening to this, understand that this is a dude who has made a career out of always standing and backing the journo, right? The journalist. Always, always, always. This sound comes courtesy of the ESPN College Football Show on YouTube. I hope they don't pull us for even showing it, but I want to show it. Here we go.
Having been an investigative reporter in my early days, I say this now, you can pretty much create whatever you want as long as you have a little bit of news to work on. And I think in some ways that's the case. You have a lot of players who have been on the fringe of trouble, and the media person, the media entity in question here is the Atlanta Journal-Constitution. which used to be an outstanding newspaper. I don't know what it is anymore because there are no such things as newspapers outside of New York and Washington and a few other places. And it's fascinating just to watch this battle between fans and the AJC. And I don't really know. I would normally take the media's side, but I'm skeptical of the media these days as well, Matt, because they are fighting for their own survival. I mean, I just literally read a tweet as we were coming on the air here. That the New York Times is getting rid of its sports staff. Well, I mean, they also own the Athletic, but I mean, the New York Times, using another entity to cover sports is there's no such thing as whatever it used to be and no longer.
All right, so a lot to address right there. First of all, I want to talk about how he gave his credos, right? He gave his bona fides. I have been an investigative journalist. In fact, I mean, not that you need to know this, but Paul Finebaum actually has a political science degree from the University of Tennessee. So this is a very well-educated man. One of his first beats was on an investigative beat. He understands how the investigative journalist track works. And did you hear him say, quote, you can kind of do, or you can pretty much create whatever you want. As long as you got a little thread, you can kind of weave whatever you want as an investigative journalist. He tells you this with firsthand experience. And then he goes on to say, the AJC, quote, which used to be an outstanding newspaper, but I don't really know what it is anymore. He would go on to allude that newspapers that are now still holding on are things of like basically holding on, like doing drastic measures just to do so, right? The newspapers that are still around are newspapers that are kind of getting sensationalized, right? In order to get clicks, in order to get attention, in order to pay their bills. That's me paraphrasing. That's essentially what he just told you. The New York Times just got released. Now, again, like he said, the New York Times has recently purchased The Athletic. So why necessarily you don't necessarily need a sports division if you have The Athletic as a portion of the New York Times. But nonetheless, what he's trying to explain to you is that modern media, or traditional media, I should say, has been cut down drastically and to a point where he doesn't even necessarily recognize it, right? He said, I don't even recognize what modern newspapers look like nowadays. Anyways, I don't even know what they are. Don't even know what the concept of them is, right? He would go on to say that there's an interesting battle. I thought that was the intriguing portion of what he said. There was an interesting battle going on between Georgia fans and the AJC. And he went on to say that he typically tends to favor the side of the media, but in this instance, doesn't necessarily do so. What does that tell you? Well, that tells you a history buff in terms of investigative journalists, a guy who is not only like one of the biggest names in SEC media, but a guy who's like the journo of journos. He is by the book journalism. That is what Paul Finebaum has always been. Have you ever looked at his show sheet? The guys that he brings onto his network, almost 9 times out of 10, they're like long-standing beat reporters. Dudes that have been on the beat for 20, 25 years, or at least scattered across the network of beats, right? This is a dude that does it by the book and always has. And then the last quote was really just a nail in the coffin. Whatever used to be is no longer. This idea of altruistic journalism ceased to exist. Okay. And if Paul Finebaum can look at you in your face and tell you that, then there it is, right? There is no much, there's not much credence left in investigative journalism based off what we're looking at. Look, I don't have the numbers in front of me. I can't tell you exactly what the business of AJC looks like, nor do I have access to them, nor do I care to look at them. But I know what dying dinosaurs look like, and the AJC has been praying, and I mean praying, for something like this, a bone like this to chew on for quite some time. This is their last ditch effort. This is what a dying animal who is doing everything in his power to stay alive looks like. In my opinion, it's a shame that, in my opinion, it is a shame that a company is allowed to attempt to slander every bit of public image of a man, like a guy like Kirby Smart. It's a shame that they're allowed to basically write a defamation article about a 16-year-old kid and deem him as like a predator. And one side a story so much that you make out a 16-year-old kid who was proven and deemed innocent by police officers, deemed him a predator. It's a shame that all of those things can happen. It's also a shame that one side of the company can do this, can do all of this sensationalization and all this type of reporting, while another side of the company can just pump red and black roses up your butt and be the only credentialed media member and outlet that is just like openly biased. But I don't know if y'all ready for that conversation. Let's move on. Hey, we got buy, sell, and hold. We got buy, sell, and hold tonight. Okay. And if you're watching tonight and you haven't already hit the thumbs up button, please do. Please do hit that thumbs up button. We're 30 minutes in tonight's show. Appreciate you guys for being here. It's a good one. We do have SEC Media Days coming up, and I was going to do this based off of, kind of the schedule of the SEC Media Days and how coaches are going to talk and how they're kind of going to be aligned. But I figured, hell, just told the graphics team, hey, we got 3 parts of this. There's 12 coaches. Put 4 coaches on the graphic. Don't tell me which 4 it is. We'll talk about it once the show starts. Tonight's 4, Josh Heupel, Mark Stoops, Jimbo Fisher, and Sam Pittman. We're going to do it auction style tonight. Buy, sell, or hold is radio staple. If you don't know what buy, sell, and hold is, it's pretty self-explanatory. We're going to talk about these coaches. I'm going to tell you whether you should buy more stock of it, you should sell some stock of it, or you should hold the current stock that you have of it. Seems pretty revolutionary with regards to content creation. It is. Okay, buy, sell, and hold, SEC Coach Edition Part 1. Josh Heupel, Mark Stoops, Jimbo Fisher, and Sam Pittman. Let's start with the pit boss. Let's establish the market first. I think everybody, and this is a byproduct of being an extremely likable individual, I think everybody and their mama's got a little bit of Sam Pittman stock, don't you? I mean, everybody's just got a couple pennies of Sam Pittman stock, don't you? And if Sam Pittman, in my opinion, were a business, Sam Pittman would have been a business that was a mom and pop type of business, serving the local town. And they're, got a great product. And then all of a sudden, boom, they're like nationally branded. They're like all over the world. They're just selling millions and millions and millions of dollars worth of retail, right? That is Sam Pittman. Sam Pittman was JAG. Sam Pittman was just another guy. He was a great local salesman. That guy was a great offensive line coach. And then all of a sudden, national name. You know who Sam Pittman is? Sam Pittman is Spanx. The company Spanx. Spanx started here in Atlanta, door to door, just handing out Spanx. Hey, I'm all Spanx. I don't want to. It's hard to talk about Spanx without talking about bigger women, and talking about bigger women nowadays is just not something we do. So Spanx is something, if you don't know, you suck women in. Just kind of make them a little tighter, make their silhouette, whatever. Spanx, small company, turned big. Sam Pittman. That's exactly what it is, man. I don't know why I got so awkward around that. So I say that everyone has kind of a handful of shares of Sam Pittman, but no one's like really all in on that. And if you're someone who's got like a handful of shares of Sam Pittman, I got to tell you, about halfway through the season, start dumping them things. Start dumping that Sam Pittman stock. I'm telling you right now, about midway through the season, and here's why. All right, KJ Jefferson's great. I think KJ Jefferson is, one of the top 3 quarterbacks in the SEC going into the season. He is a great college football player. He's going to win football games. I think Kendall Briles, really, really good offensive coordinator. But this is the last year of KJ Jefferson, and I'm here to tell you that KJ Jefferson's departure might mean Kendall Briles' departure. Do y'all remember that Kendall Briles' agent was out here floating around the idea of him going to Miami a couple years back? Your agent doesn't float ideas of you leaving unless you want to leave, by the way. So I'm just saying Kendall Briles might already have a bag packed, just waiting on the right kind of season. And KJ Jefferson's senior year might be the kind of season to be betting on getting out. You know what I mean? Might be the season to bet on getting out of Little Rock. So that being said, first 3 weeks of the season, keep buying Arkansas stock. Buy the KJ Jefferson stuff. Buy the Sam Pittman stock. Buy it all, okay? But once they get done with BYU week 3, hopefully with a win for Sam Pittman and the boys, start selling the stock. Start dumping as much as short the hell out of it, because here's why. They go to LSU. They got Texas A&M. They go to Ole Miss, and they go to Alabama in 4 straight weeks. Arkansas is going to be down bad. Okay, about week 5. They're going to be a 3-4 football team, maybe 4-3 football team, maybe, with the rest of the season left. So if you're holding any stock of Arkansas come BYU week, sell it right now. All right, Jimbo Fisher's on the list. Let's be quick. Can we just be quick? If you're holding Jimbo Fisher stock today, if the Appalachian State loss didn't just make you just eat the L and just take the red ink on the balance sheet, then you probably just got oil money, and a depreciating asset just doesn't mean a hill of beans to you. It's just setting money on fire, and that's kind of what you do anyways. So, like, if you still out here holding Jimbo Fisher stock, you just don't care about losing money, and you just got something we call F it money. If you got so much money that you can just throw it around and say, F it, then I can't talk to you. And that's how you are if you're still out here defending Jimbo Fisher. If you're out here like, you know what? I think Jimbo Fisher might win 10 games this year. You know what? Maybe. You know what he did? He did win that national title with Bobby Bowden's football team. You know, if you're one of them, I don't know what to do for you, okay? You're probably stuck in that oil money, and that just is what it is. Our last guy for the night, it's obviously a sell. I don't even have stock to sell of Jimbo Fisher because I didn't buy any. I never did. The 10 a year over 90 over 10, I think is what it was. The original contract, him coming from FSU, blew my ever-loving mind. Couldn't understand it. Never could. And I think at one point they doubled down and gave it a contract extension. They're in trouble for a long time under that contract. So Texas A&M fans watching this probably agree. They're probably like, damn, we just got to keep walking. We just got to keep walking this desert. We just out here. We just out here trying to figure it out. Last guy on the list for tonight is Mark Stoops. Shouts out to the Kentucky Wildcats. Did you know that Mark Stoops and the Kentucky Wildcats have made 7 straight bowl games? 7 straight. That streak of 7 straight bowl games dating back to the 2016 season is a longer streak than, listen to me, Tennessee, Ole Miss, Auburn, Florida, Texas A&M, Texas, and Notre Dame, just to name a few. Mark Stoops has a longer active bowl game streak than Notre frickin' Dame. Think about that. Mark Stoops is a damn good football coach. He wins 7 or 8 games at Kentucky every single year in the SEC. That is absurd. I have been on the Mark Mountain for years now. Have been standing on top of Mark Mountain for years, just screaming, bye, 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 bye. And somehow, some way, there's still Mark Stoops stocks available. People are just out here bypassing Mark Stoops because he's Kentucky Wildcats head coach. And you know what he does every single year? He hires a competent NFL offensive coordinator. He runs a hellified gap sound defense, and he wins tight football games. That's what that dude does every single year. Mark Stoops, buy the stock. If you can't buy any more of it, it's because I got it all. All right, and our last guy, actually, we skipped one. We only had 3. We got 4 tonight. This guy's pretty high stock. I think a lot of people, because of the 11-win season last year for Tennessee, I think a lot of people already have Josh Heupel stock. I think a lot of people are already on the product that is Josh Heupel. I think they've already bought it up. And to me, I understand why, and we'll talk about it here in a little bit, but have you ever loved a business or like really, really liked a product, but you just couldn't get yourself over the spokesman, right? The spokesperson just either had the wrong kind of voice or the wrong kind of energy, or you just didn't like the way they looked, right? Whatever it was, just right product, right brand, right company, wrong spokesperson. You just didn't like it. Well, that's kind of how I feel about Tennessee this season. I love Josh Heupel's offense. I think it's revolutionary. I think high school football teams are going to suck that thing up and absorb it faster than you can blink in a hiccup. All right? Faster than you can blink in a hiccup. Do you blink when you hiccup? Next time I hiccup, I got to check out. But nonetheless, it is a revolutionary offensive system, right? It is a football team, in my opinion, that is explainable, and we'll talk about that here in a second. I just don't love Joe Milton. I don't love Joe Milton, and to tease the Joe Milton film study just a little bit more, we're going to do it. I'm going to give you my verified reasons as to why I doubt Joe Milton, but I will give you this piece right here. You can't throw everything 105 miles an hour. That's not this position. I've told you on this channel for months, dating back to when we started previewing the Elite 11. It is not thrower of the football. That is not the definition of the position. It is called quarterback. If it was called who can throw it the best, or if that was the only thing that was required to be great at the position, it would be called thrower. Just like it's called running back. That dude's job is to run the ball. He's called the running back. That dude out there, his job is to receive the ball, and he's way out there. We'll call him the wide receiver. That dude throws the ball. No, that's not all he does. So we can't just call him the thrower back. We have to call him the quarterback. We have to give him a different name. All right. So for all of those reasons, I love Josh Heupel's product. I love his business. I don't necessarily love his spokesman this year. That being said, I think they're going to have a down year. I think there's a stretch in their schedule that is really, really tough. They play South Carolina, A&M, they go to Alabama, and they play Kentucky in the middle of the season, actually first third of the season, okay? By the time mid-November rolls around and they got to play Georgia, who knows what their season even looks like. But I've already crapped on Joe Milton enough. I've kind of explained it enough. But to me, okay, I am a Josh Heupel believer. I am buying the stock despite the fact that I think they lose 3 or 4 football games this year. And here's why. Everything about Tennessee's football team, what in the heck just happened here? Every single thing about Tennessee's football team is explainable to me. When I turn the tape on of Tennessee football, they don't do anything that makes me scratch my head and go, why are they doing that way? Right? And here's some examples for you. Okay, let's just talk. Everyone wants to talk about the offense and how mismatched they are for their defense, how bad their defense played last year, and how lackluster their defense was last year. But every single thing about their defense and the way they played football, I could explain it. They knew they were going to be a football team that was on the football field a lot. By nature and by proxy of their offense, their definition of their offense is we're going to give it back. We're either going to score quickly or we're going to give it back to you quickly. So as a defense, when I go out there on Saturdays, I know that I'm going to be playing more possessions and more snaps than everybody else. What does that tell me as a defensive coordinator I need to be doing? I need to be prioritizing turnovers. They played the opposite of a risk-averse defense last year. They played to the tilt defense. They turned all the sliders up last year on defense. Why? It was explainable. They were going to get more cracks at it. So instead of trying to stand up and build a wall more oftentimes and having to play more snaps than everybody else, we were going to prioritize havoc and risk opportunity plays, right? High risk, high reward. It was explainable. They start the game knowing they're going to have to play more possessions than everybody else. They also knew last year a coverage sack, what the f- is that? Not going to happen. Tennessee couldn't cover nobody to save their life last year. They knew it. They played defense as such. So if I know I ain't never going to get a coverage sack a day in my life, you know what I have to do? I have to get pressure on the quarterback. How do I get pressure on the quarterback? I add in pressure. I blitz. I am willing to play man-to-man defense at a much higher rate than I probably should be. Why? Because I know I can't get home without getting additional people there. And I know I can't protect or I can't cover long enough anyways. Everything was explainable. They knew they weren't going to be able to stop the run with 5, so guess what they didn't do? They never played 2 high safety looks. They always had a safety near around the box. They always played single high safety. Everything about them was explainable. So when I go watch you and everything about you makes sense, you just might not be producing the results that I'm, looking for, but the process is correct and it's explainable and it's verifiable and I can look at it and say, that makes sense. You are a good football coach. So despite the fact that your record will not dictate that you were as good as you were last year, Josh Heupel is a good football coach and he's here to stay. I'm buying the stock despite the fact that this year it's going to take a hit. I promise you, they're going to lose multiple games this season, maybe 3 or 4, okay, in this regular season. I think there's 3 losses on the schedule, 2 for sure. I don't think at Alabama ends well for Tennessee this year. And I don't think come November 11th, I think it is, Tennessee is in a situation where they're ready and geared up to beat a Georgia team that's most likely going to be undefeated by that point in time of the year. Whew. Appreciate you guys being here tonight. Hit that thumbs up button, hit that like, hit that subscribe, do all that good stuff. We asked you on Twitter today, who's the team on Georgia's schedule that's giving you the quote-unquote sneaky upset alert vibes? Top 3 responses were a consensus answer: South Carolina, Tennessee, and Ole Miss. behind, of course, the number one answer, which was nobody, Paul. Ain't nobody beating them dogs this year. They too damn good. That was definitely the number one answer, Paul. But that's not the one we're going to address tonight. We're going to talk about these three teams. I think those three football games, for good reason, are the ones that most Georgia fans are circling and saying that's going to be our tight game. We got to be ready for that one. We got to be ready for that one. We got to be ready for that one, right? Let's talk about each one of them. The first one coming up on the list is South Carolina. It is the third week of the season. It is the first SEC start against a formidable opponent for a first-year starting quarterback in Carson Beck, which was the reasoning most of you guys gave me on Twitter, which is a very fine reasoning, by the way. I mean, it's qualified. It is one that we can prove, yes, that will be a test because it's his first test. The first test is oftentimes the hardest as a starting quarterback. And by the way, say what you want about Spencer Rattler on the other side. He is a winnable quarterback. You can win SEC quarterback or SEC games, even if you're outmatched with Spencer Rattler. I think we were proving that against Tennessee last year. We were proving that against Clemson last year, right? There were moments of those football games where Spencer Rattler and a lesser talented football team played up to the caliber of a more superior talented football team. There's no reason that can't happen against the University of Georgia this year, week 3. But here's why I'm telling you it ain't going to happen. You ever noticed how much like obvious and open respect Kirby Smart has for, quote, the other guy on the headsets? You ever heard him talk about after a football game where, you know, he beat Samford 33-10, or he lumped up on Kent State by 4 touchdowns instead of maybe 7 like he could have? Have you ever heard him mention the fact that he's been on the other side of those games, that he's been on the headsets on the other sideline in those moments, and how he carries and garners respect for the situation that other football coach is in? Y'all ever heard him say that? Because I have. I hear him say that almost every single year, where he doesn't necessarily beat the shit out of a football team that he probably should have beat the shit out of. Every single year we hear it. In fact, I don't know of very many SEC football teams that he's blown out of the water. Mark Stoops, every year, that's a 27-10 football game. Every single year. He can say it's because Kentucky's good. He can say it's because Mark Stoops is a great football coach. But at the end of the day, when he's asked why he didn't cover the spread against Kentucky, he will start with how much admiration and respect he has for that other coach. He beat the dog doo-doo out of South Carolina at home last year. Didn't give a damn. Going for it on 4th and short. First down, mother. Like really, really aggressively beating the ever-loving shit out of the South Carolina Gamecocks last year. Do y'all remember that? Because I sure as hell do. And I've never seen him do it to a football coach. I have never seen him blatantly embarrass, purposefully embarrass another football coach, particularly in their home stadium, let alone a guy that used to work for him. You know what I think? I think Kirby Smart don't like Shane Beamer. I think so. Maybe it's just me. This is not sourced. This is nothing. I have nothing to back this up on, except for the fact that track record of always protecting the other guy on the other sideline and then beating him 45-7 at home, that shit's embarrassing. That's like, I don't like you. That's like, you know what? You took a lateral move. You left my staff in 2017 to go coach for Lincoln Riley's tight ends. You know what? We're going to beat you 45-7 at home. That's what we're going to do. We're going to walk into your stadium and we're going to hang up damn near 50. Actually, I think it was 52-7. We're going to put 50 on y'all in your own home. And we're not going to have no ifs, ands, or buts about it. So, people telling me in my mentions today, South Carolina, watch out, might sneak up on you. South Carolina, as long as Shane Beamer is the head coach of South Carolina, they ain't sneaking up on you, bro. They not. There is something about that man that Kirby Smart clearly and obviously does not like. All right, so that's the South Carolina run. I've already kind of given it to you on Tennessee. By November 18th, when they're supposed to play Tennessee, Tennessee will already have gone through South Carolina, A&M, Alabama, and Kentucky in 4 weeks in a row. They will be a shell of themselves come November 18th. Tennessee will either be a one-loss football team playing for a national title game on November 18th, or they will be a 2 or 3 loss football team ready to not get their brains beat in by the eventual SEC East champs in Georgia. That is the only 2 ways this checks out, right? Tennessee is either ready to play for a college football playoff this year with Joe Milton as their starting quarterback, and that game, November 18th, will be the biggest game in college football this year, or they will have 2 losses by the time that game rolls around, and it won't fucking matter. Sorry, I said the F word. I got to stop doing that. Which one of those is more likely to happen? I'm probably going to say this one, right? I'm probably going to say it's more likely that Alabama and plus 1 more gets Tennessee by the time November 18th rolls around, which brings us to the football team that I think you should be not necessarily scared of, but you should have your antennas up for, and that's Ole Miss. I tweeted it today. I think there are 3 things that you have to do to overcome a massive underdog, which any 14-point spread against Georgia, in my opinion, is a massive underdog situation because it's so hard to score on that defense if they are in kill the clock mode offensively, which they will still maintain and have this year. So if you're going to overcome a 14-point spread, which is what almost every single football game will be this year for the Georgia Bulldogs, then you have to be able to do 3 things. You have to limit possessions, which is a fancy football way of saying you have to be able to run the football and do it successfully and willingly. Okay. And I think with Judkins, they're going to be able to do that at Ole Miss this year. Additionally, it's important to have a willing quarterback run game because that just adds one more thing, right? And I know it sounds simple, but it is what it is. If you could just maintain a run game that averages about 3.5 yards a carry against Georgia, you can keep their offense off the field. You can keep your defense off the field long enough to get them some type of breather. I think Ole Miss has an attempt or an ability to limit the number of possessions this year. I also think if you're going to beat Georgia, you have to score explosively. You're not going to be able to dink and dunk all the way down the field. Mississippi State's tried to do this year after year. RIP Mike Leach. They tried to do it year after year under Mike Leach, and they would end up scoring about 20 points and make it really, really painstaking for Georgia. And they would have 3 or 4 scoring drives, maybe 4 scoring drives where they were 15 plays. Lane Kiffin ain't that. Okay. Lane Kiffin can design up winners. Lane Kiffin can have 3-score playing drives, right? Or 3-play scoring drives. He absolutely can. So you have to be able to design up winners and explosive plays, and Lane Kiffin can do that. And I think most importantly, you have to have irrational confidence. Okay. You have to believe you are better than you are. So you have to have those 3 things. You have to be able to limit possessions, aka run the football correctly and willingly. You have to be able to score on explosive plays, and you have to have irrational confidence. I just described Lane Kiffin's Tinder profile. Are kids still on Tinder? I don't know. I haven't been single in 10 years. Whatever you kids are, Hinge. All right. I just described Lane Kiffin's Hinge profile. That's what I just did. I mean, he is the definition of irrational confidence. Appreciate you guys for being here tonight. I can't believe, just a little insight. We normally have like 4 pages of show notes here on the doc. All right. 4 pages. Tonight we had 6. Tonight we ran through 6 pages of show notes in a matter of 53 minutes. And we had a 5-minute intro. So we're really only 48 minutes in. I got to tell you something, man. I am not a John Deere, but I be steady mowing. We'll see y'all later.